And here we are once again with another roster video. But this one's going to be a little different than the last one. Rather than speculating over the exact roster, I'm just going to go over some of the things we know about the roster now, why I'm not going to speculate on them, and then talk about a few characters that exist sort of on the fringe. With all that out of the way, let's talk about the roster size. Now, this is supposed to have the largest roster in the series. Now, the reason I'm saying that is mainly the wording from the Japanese site. However, the European site did use the word historic roster size before they reverted it and changed it to incredible roster size. Now, all those things together don't necessarily confirm that it will be, but it seems more likely than not, so I'm just going to go with it for now. An important thing to note though is that does not confirm that Dragon Ball or GT will be in the game at launch. I did a quick little count of the characters that were in BT3 and found out that there were 30 total characters from Dragon Ball and GT. I then did a count of how many super characters I think could make it into this game and got a number of around 57. So as you can see, if they have the same amount of characters from Z and the Z movies and then just add Super without adding Dragon Ball or GT, you get a larger roster than BT3, making it the largest roster in the series without having Dragon Ball or GT in the game. Now, that doesn't mean they won't be in the game, but it's still too early to confirm that they are or are not. And without an upper limit on how many characters are going to be in this game, them saying something along the lines of, this game will have 200 characters for example, it's really impossible to say whether any character will definitively make it in or not be in, outside of the ones that have already been confirmed. So with that as the background of everything, let's talk about the specific characters themselves. And the first one I want to talk about is Hachiyak. Now, as I'm sure all of you know, he did show up in Raging Blast 2, so the idea of him being in the game isn't exactly completely insane, but he is pretty minor. No one really knows anything about him, including the fact that no one seemed to have really played Raging Blast 2, so while not impossible for him to be in the game, it does seem doubtful that he would make the roster. On the opposite side, we have Android 21. She has a pretty decent chance of actually showing up in this game, I think. She's been popular ever since she was announced. The fact that she appeared in Kakarot, as well as Superhero, does mean she seems to be a character that has staying power rather than just being a one-and-done character for one single game. So I would not be surprised at all if she showed up in this. Onto something a little more on the fence would be Toa and Mira. Now, generally they stick to their little continuity of online heroes and Xenoverse, that whole jumbled mess, but they did show up in Kakarot. And that's really the only reason I think they have a chance of even being in this game in the first place, is because they did show up for that little cameo in Kakarot. But I don't think they have a good as chance as 21 of making it into this game. And that brings us to the manga characters. And by this I mean the characters that have only shown up in the Super manga. They have not shown up anywhere else, as far as I'm aware, outside of the manga. But I really doubt that Sparking Zero would be the first game the manga characters would jump to outside of everything. I mean, they haven't even made it into Dokkan. Another character that's in the same line as this is Nekomajin. If you have no idea who Nekomajin is, exactly. But I would find it hilarious if he did make it into the game, just because I thought Nekomajin was hilarious, but no, he's not going to be in the game. Although, Kuriza did show up as an alternate costume for Frieza in the Japanese version of Budokai 3, still not going to show up. Which brings me to the last things I want to talk about. Super Saiyan 3 Vegeta and Super Saiyan 3 Broly. Now, they showed up in both of the Raging Blast games, but I doubt they'll really show up here. It's not completely insane for them to show up or something, as they were in Raging Blast 1 and 2, but the whole what-if scenario thing is more the realm of Dragon Ball Heroes now rather than these games, and we really don't need Dragon Ball Heroes getting involved in this. And of course, as I was almost done finishing this video, they decided to release a new piece of news on me. That being this tweet here that specifically calls it Goku Super. Now, not getting into the whole character split thing, it's the tail end of this video, I will say this. The fact that they have Goku Super doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna split every character up or do it the way they did it for BT3 or Raging Blast. The only thing we can really draw from this is that they do seem to be having some sort of split, but as Goku would be completely overloaded to do everything from Z and Super in one character, even with being able to change his supers, I could still see them just having a Goku Z and a Goku Super, and not necessarily 6 other Gokus for everything. So, that's all the news that's really come out about the roster. And what do we know by the end of the day? Still basically nothing. We have some ideas of where it can go, but nothing concrete enough to really have a strong idea. In any event, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the news for this, but until then, have a nice day.